Hey everyone, do you know how long it actually takes to apply for medical school? Do you guys think it's 6 months, 12 months, or even 24 months? In this video, I will discuss how long one application cycle to medical school can actually take. Hey everyone, welcome back to the GetAdmittedMD channel, where I will teach you how to succeed as a pre-med and get accepted to the medical school of your dreams. My name is David Janicek, founder of GetAdmittedMD. If you haven't watched last week's video on the 4-year pre-med timeline, check it out here. In this video, I'm going to zoom in to the actual application process to discuss how long the medical school application takes. This is a topic that I find most pre-medical students don't know about until they actually go through the process themselves. I'm releasing this video now so that if you are applying to medical school later this year, you can incorporate this timeline into your application preparation. Without further ado, let's get into when you should start working on your application. But before that, one more thing, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe to this channel so you get a notification when I release my weekly videos. Okay, so the first question that I usually get is, when should I start working on my medical school application? My suggestion is to start this process around the midpoint of the year before you will be applying. Therefore, if you're planning to submit your application in between your 3rd and 4th years of being an undergrad, I would suggest starting this process in December or January of year 3. I would say the first step in this process is to determine when you will take the MCAT exam. Most students take this exam sometime in the spring of year 3 or in the early summer months right after year 3, but this can be highly variable. If you take the exam earlier in the spring, this gives enough time to get your scores back and retake if it is necessary in the summer months without sacrificing your application being too late. If you have a difficult semester ahead of you, it is also okay to take the exam in the early summer time frame in between year 3 and year 4. Either way, once you have a time frame in which you will take the MCAT, you can start working on other aspects of your application. In this case, I say time frame as you may not be able to officially schedule your exam until closer to the date itself, given that you will have to register for a time at a prometric testing center. Once you have an idea of when you will be taking the MCAT exam, and therefore a sense of when you will need to study for the exam, you could start working on the components of the medical school application itself. This usually means January of the year in which you will be applying. The first component that I suggest working on is your personal statement. As this part of the application is often the hardest to complete, starting early is crucial. The first step is to brainstorm ideas that you want to talk about for your statement. While there are many ways you can approach the personal statement, determining which themes and stories you want to talk about is usually the first step. Once you have decided on some possible themes, you should start to write whatever comes to mind. Do not be afraid if the first draft isn't very good. It is highly unlikely that it will be, and that is just okay. This early writing process will take up the months of January and February. In a future video, I will take you through a more in-depth discussion of how to write your personal statement, including brainstorming ideas and actually how to formulate your thoughts. At the same time, in the months of January and February, I would start to compile a list of the activities that you have engaged in up to this point, if you haven't already. While you don't need to write out all the descriptions for these activities right now, you can create a list of your activities with the basic information about them, such as the dates in which you were engaged in them, your supervisor's name and their contact info, and the number of hours you participated in those activities. This will help you save quite a bit of time later on in the application process. Now that we've gone through basically January and February of the year in which you're applying, let's move on to the month of March, which will be quite a busy month for your application prep. First and foremost, you should use this month to review and revise what you have written so far regarding your personal statement. Up to this point, if you have just been brainstorming ideas and getting some thoughts onto paper, then this month is really when you should start to mold these ideas into a more formal statement. By the end of March, you should be ready to send this statement out to reviewers to receive feedback from them. Also during March of the year that you will apply, I suggest determining who the writers of your recommendation letters will be. Although you may not know exactly which letters are needed until you begin researching medical schools more directly, it is safe to ask a few individuals that will cover most medical schools' requirements. Typically, these include 2 science professors, a non-science professor, and an individual who knows you in a professional way and you have worked with over the pre-med years. These can include work or volunteer supervisors or research mentors. If you can identify these 4 individuals and reach out to them via email, or if you see them in person, you could talk to them that way as well. This gives them time to start working on their letters early. Often great letter writers get requests from many pre-meds, so they may get a little backed up closer to the application time. As you won't have access to the application at this point, the letter writers will not be able to submit their letters until at least May, so you can just remind them that this is the case and you will send them the required link to upload their letters as soon as you open the application. Let's move on to the month of April. This month is all about multitasking on various parts of your application. During this month, you should send out your personal statement draft to reviewers and collect their feedback. Once you get their feedback, you should try to incorporate the changes that they mention, of course if you agree with them, and keep working on reviewing your personal statement yourself. Secondly, while you're waiting for the feedback to come, you can work on your activity section by writing out the descriptions of the activities that you had skipped before. This process can take some time, so it's good to not save this until the end of your application. Lastly, if you haven't chosen who your letter writers will be, then this is a great time to still ask them, as it will give them a couple of months to get their letters done. If you are applying via the AMCAS application, this usually opens the first week of May for admission for the following year. This means that you can start working on filling out your demographics information, your coursework. Yes, this is separate from the transcripts you must send, your personal statement, and your work activities section. Once the application opens, you'll also be able to request your official transcripts from your college or university. This is something you should do ASAP, as it can often take a few weeks for them to be sent. Although the application opens in May, you won't be able to submit it until the last week of May or the first week of June. The official date depends on the year, but will be set forth by the AAMC. The goal should be for you to submit your application as soon as you can after the date in which you are allowed to. This will give you the best chance of being high in the queue for your AMCAS application to be verified. Your application could be in the verification process for several weeks. This can take up to 6 to 8 weeks at times, depending on when you submit, so getting it submitted early is crucial. While you are waiting for verification, if you haven't taken the MCAT yet, you will need to study for that, but if you've already taken this test, the post-submission time period is great for getting a head start on other components of the application, such as secondary essays. I just want to add, even if you're scheduled to take the MCAT exam in June or July, I highly suggest working on your application early and getting it submitted so that all you are waiting for is your MCAT score. Back to the secondary essays. So these are school-specific essays that are sent to you once the medical school receives your AMCAS application. They typically consist of several shorter essays, sometimes 1 to 5 in total, that give the medical school additional insight into why you applied to their school, what unique characteristics you will bring to their class, and among others. There is also usually a fee attached to these essays that you will have to pay before you submit them. Depending on when you submit your AMCAS application and when you are verified, these secondary essays can start arriving as early as July and can extend into the early fall and even winter months. Writing these essays and sending them back to the medical school in a timely fashion will only help your chances, and delaying them could be detrimental to your application. Once you submit your secondary applications, you can be eligible for interview invitations. To be honest, you could receive interview invitations anywhere from August through January, so if you don't get any invites initially, just know that it can take some time. Most interviews wrap up by the end of the winter, so usually by January or February at the latest. After the interview, some schools may extend an acceptance offer as soon as a few days after, while others may not come for weeks. For the most part, acceptance offers are usually extended by March of the year in which you will start medical school. Therefore, if you haven't heard anything back from the medical school at that point, you may be waitlisted or possibly rejected. Even if you are waitlisted at a particular school, you may still have a chance to get admitted off of the waitlist in April, May, or even during the summer months. If you are still on a waitlist heading into the summer, don't give up hope. There's still the possibility that waitlist movements happened over the summer and some spots may be freed up. There's a variety of reasons why seats may open up in the summer, such as a family emergency or other circumstances that force a student to defer for a year or change their plans suddenly. At most medical schools, they will accept students off the waitlist up until their orientation starts in the fall. So as you can see, the medical school application process can take a solid 12 to 18 months from the start of your preparation to getting that coveted acceptance letter. During the process, there will be ups and downs along the way. As the next application cycle progresses, I will post more videos to give you guidance along the way, so stay tuned for those. Before I wrap up this video, I want to know what your concerns or questions are about the medical school application process. Leave a comment below about what you want to know, and I will make a video discussing it. See you next week.